So thanks for sharing that insight with us. And it is interesting that we are coming out after a session where we heard how people can be skilled, and we heard terms like great resignation. Now, it's going to be a challenge for us to keep up with the tempo, but my guest here, he will definitely help us carve out a path. And data virtualization, we just had a word outside. He has been saying that people take data to the solution, okay? And it's an interesting concept, and it's interesting to see how you can take the solution to the data. So, Alex, my question to you is, we're coming out of the post-COVID era, and our previous speaker said that we are seeing the challenges with the workforce. I understand that data alone, and probably the topic which we are going to be talking about, may not be really hitting, having a direct impact on the employees, but it is definitely going to have an impact on productivity and on the business. So from a customer standpoint, and when we are talking about data virtualization, we have talked about ETL, and you talked about take the solution to the data. What are you seeing from the current challenges with the customers are facing, and how are they adopting this different approach, this modern approach, which will ensure that we are going to give back to the employees as well as to the business? So it's not just taking it to the employees.
Okay. Hi, hello, everyone. Thanks for joining us today. And Yogesh, thank you for having me here today. So let me talk a little bit about data virtualization first, because I'm not sure if everybody in the audience is very familiar with data virtualization as a concept, as an approach to data management and data integration. As you mentioned ETL, and ETL has been, well, as a technology around for the last 20, 30, 40 years to integrate data. It's a, I would say proven technology, but also very classic technology, which basically takes data, extracts it from the source, copies it into copies of the data, transforms the data, and makes more copies until you have that single source of truth. It's a slow process, and in a world where we produce data ever more and ever faster, it's becoming also a challenge. So, I mean, I talked, for example, yesterday to one of my customers here in India who told me, oh, we are running ETL processes, but it takes me basically 16, 17 days in the month to prepare reports for my business. And they have only half the month left to, well, process this data, take decisions based on this data. Wouldn't it be great to do this much faster? And that's exactly what data virtualization does. So as an approach, we actually do not make copies of data, but we leave the data where it is. And we integrate the data on the fly, on demand, when it is required. So this makes a huge difference for the business when it comes to time to data, time to decision taking. Coming back to your questions about how does it impact people, one of the key benefits of data virtualization is really the fact that we're in the possibility to retire, for example, some of the ETL jobs that companies are doing. So we are freeing up people from that laborious task of creating ETL jobs, of creating reports for the business. We have a possibility to democratize data, so we help customers to have self-service capabilities, which means we free up people to do more meaningful work, and that will obviously also impact their work-life quality.
So interesting thought where you said self-service, give the customer the power, democratize data. Where do you see the biggest need for the data management and integration coming into the customers which you are having to work with?
Yeah. So, I mean, I think the need is everywhere where there's lots of data. And I think all of us are seeing, well, there's more and more data being produced. You have to process more and more data. I mean, the customers we work with are typically in the large enterprise space. We have customers basically in all industries, from manufacturing to logistic to hospitality, but we see a lot of our customers actually in the BFSI space. So we have lots of banks, insurance companies, financial services companies in all parts of the world. Why is that the case? Because data is so important for your business. So being able to integrate that data, make it meaningful, and take good decisions is actually a key area of what we are doing. For data virtualization to make most sense, we need a certain level of complexity. So when I talk about complexity, I talk about lots of data, I talk of lots of different data sources, I talk about lots of different types of data. And then bringing them all together into a meaningful way, that's really the benefit that we can provide with data virtualization.
Okay, so take the horse to the water or take the water to the horse. Okay, so that's an interesting approach. And especially after COVID, where we have seen that now data is no longer sitting in a centralized place. And that was the original approach where people built data warehouses, data lakes, trying to get data in a single place, having multiple units of data, trying to clean them out, spending a lot of time, as you said, doing those ETL jobs, and which is pretty laborious when you look at the IT. And essentially, when I look at it from the business standpoint as well, the business benefit by the time it accrues, how long do you estimate that? Is there a comparison which you can throw that if I was to do data virtualization or if I was to do the ETL approach, how quickly can businesses realize the benefits? And again, from the freeing up of time, as you said, from the employees, is there any quantification available?
Yeah. So, I liked, first of all, your statement about the horse. I usually take that comparison with the ocean and the water. So classic ETL is if you have that scenario, you want to fetch a glass of water. Classic ETL is, for me, I bring the ocean to the glass of water and fetch the glass. I have to do a lot of heavy lifting. Data virtualization is basically moving the glass to the ocean, fetching the water and bringing it back. So it's much more lightweight, it's much more flexible and easy to use. When we're now talking about, and that's really describing it in a very simplistic way, what we can do. So when we talk about the benefits that customers receive, we are talking about benefits of time to data, delivering data to end consumers of 80% time savings or more. So if I take, for example, the example of Seacoast Bank, one of our customers in the United States, they grew very fast, they got more and more regulatory requirements, and it took them 2 to 3 days to create one of those compliance reports, which took a lot of their manpower away. They decided to introduce Denodo to go the logical route. Instead of building physical data marts, they built logical data marts. So with that approach, they could then actually create those data reports within 2 to 3 hours. So we're talking here about 95% time savings that they have received. So just as one idea how this can go. Another benefit they actually received at the same time was real-time data access for loan approvals. So they could actually accelerate significantly how fast they could approve loans, and that had also then significant impact on their approval rates or sales rates of loans.
Interesting. So you're saying you are giving back time to that employee. So you are going to take off from where Peter left us, right? Saying we are going to help the employee. So this is a good approach. However, when I look at the overall solution, is data virtualization for everyone, or is it only for large enterprises or big organizations to work with?
Yeah. So as I said earlier, most of our customers are in the large enterprise space because we need a certain level of complexity. On the other hand, data virtualization is not only for large enterprises. It's usually, as I said earlier, complexity. So technically speaking, as soon as you have 2, 3, 4 data sources, data virtualization starts bringing you a lot of benefits. And we have also different options for our customers available. So we have also different subscriptions options for large enterprises, but also for the mid-market. And Denodo can also be deployed on-premise or on the cloud with a bring your own license model, or you can also buy it through the different marketplaces like AWS and Azure.
So the use case around the loan approval, which you just talked about, would it probably make sense if we had these fairs? A lot of these companies like the banks, the housing companies, right? They usually have a point, a time in the year when they'd love to come out and try to get more and more sales going on. How would data virtualization help at that particular point of time? Because obviously they are not having the data, they're generating data at that time, and what can they do with data virtualization?
Okay, so you mentioned about use cases. So let me start off with that, and then how can it help banks or companies to make more revenue, more business? I would say, we are seeing a number of different use cases, particularly in the banking space. So first of all, let's talk about know your customer. This is a really big use case that we see. So bringing together all available information that is available about your customers, either from internal sources or from external sources. So this know your customer obviously immediately has impact on your sales capabilities. It means, for example, you can do better churn analysis. You can upsell better your products. It helps you to improve your service levels. We have customers who, for example, in average took about 8 minutes to serve their customers. They could reduce that by 25% and at the same time increase customer satisfaction by about 25%. Another big use case is, for example, in the whole space of analytics and reporting. So here, again, we're talking about 80–90% time savings compared to traditional data integration approaches. A big use case we see in the banking world is also risk management. One of the classics in risk management is that risk departments have challenges to get access to the data because nobody wants to copy the data to them. With data virtualization, using a logical approach, you can integrate this data without having to own the data, and then you can do your risk reporting in a much easier way. Two more big use cases we see is on one side, the whole area of cloud modernization. With data virtualization, you create this abstraction layer, which means your end consumers do not even know when you update your architecture. So a lot of customers of ours are moving from an on-prem to a hybrid to a multi-cloud environment. We help to accelerate and de-risk this approach. And the other, let's say, big kid on the block is the whole machine learning and AI. What we see there is that a lot of time for a highly trained data scientist goes away just to get access to the data. 30–40% of their time they use just to access data, and they don't have that time anymore to train the models, build the models. So with data virtualization, we can more than halve that access time of data, giving data scientists more time to do the real work.
So Alex, that's been an interesting conversation, and I would like to see if there's any question from the audience, since we just have under 2 minutes left. Else I can summarize the session. Okay,
There's a
we have a question there.
There's a gentleman over.
Yeah, good evening. This is Santosh from Adani. I would like to know whether this data virtualization is a proven technology and how stable it is. It has been implemented since how many years?
Yeah, okay, that's a very good question. So, as a company, we are over 20 years old. We have over 1,000 customers worldwide, and these are large enterprise customers. So we're talking, for example, about UBS, we're talking about JP Morgan Chase, we're talking about Crédit Agricole, we're talking about one of the leading central banks in the Asia-Pacific region. We're talking about Boeing. we're talking about Volkswagen, we're talking about Mercedes-Benz as our customers. So to give a short answer to your question, I think it's a very, very stable solution because it's in the heart of every data architecture, and we could not afford to, or we would not be so successful if we were not stable and established in the market.
All right, so thanks, Alex. Couple of key takeaways. Democratize data, give the customer an opportunity to do self-service, and look at least good amount of time returns and business benefits. Those are a couple of key takeaways which I have. So thanks for your time.
Okay. Well, thank you very much. And if you have any questions, we have a booth outside. So please join the team over there if you would like to learn more about Denodo. And maybe just as one of the key takeaways, what is data virtualization about? It's about bringing the right data to the right people at the right time as fast as nobody else. So take at least that with you from this session, and otherwise we would like to see you outside at the booth. Thank you.